It's always interesting to meet with brand new companies who have no idea. Please tell me what you can do different than the other 10 vendors that are selling very similar tech. Hey, we're having X vendor come in. We're going to talk about this. Here's a couple pain points that you've expressed to me that I think that they could address. That's the only way you're going to prove it. Either fail fast or win. I am Gemma Lowry. I am a technology manager for the Center for Virtual Health at ChristianaCare. This is one of my favorites is do your company research before you get to the meeting. It's always interesting to meet with brand new companies who have no idea who we are, have some, assumptions based on who sometimes our competitors are. It's not the best way to start the conversation with us. So I always tell people, just take some time, get to know, the room before you get there, helps. I have one potential partner that I'm dealing with right now that the second one resonates literally every conversation is listen. Because I'm constantly having to redirect the conversation because he tells me what he thinks I'm saying. Or he repeats back to me, kind of sort of what I said, but then what he wants to share. So it gets really frustrating because I am big on, before we meet with a bigger group, I meet privately with new groups and we have kind of a prep session and we talk. I want people to come in and put literally their best foot forward. I want you to hit the points that I think are important to the team because it's a win-win. I don't want to bring somebody in and people are going, why did you do that? And I don't want, I don't want also to prep and then get blindsided because the presentation really ends up being completely different from what we talked about. So I really, really encourage people, because I know other groups don't do this necessarily, to take advantage of the prep session, listen to what people are saying versus what your pitch is. That's a big deal for us. It frustrates leadership too when I prep them and say, hey, we're having X vendor come in. We're going to talk about this. Here's a couple pain points that you've expressed to me that I think that they could address. And then I leave the meeting and they go, yeah, don't do that again. That wasted my time. That doesn't help me for credibility. And it really kills the option to bring somebody back in. So just, being in lockstep with somebody inside who's willing to help, I think is a big deal. I also think this one's interesting. Target low-hanging fruit. In particular, when I'm talking to some new companies that are outside of the United States, because I do some of that, and they're curious about how to get into the US health market, or like what are key things that they should target as they're coming to market. Don't pick the biggest thing. Don't come in and say that you can fix the absolute worst problem in X category, because number one, it's not believable, but also number two, that's probably something that a lot of others are targeting too. So it actually sometimes works better to hit just a low-hanging fruit. Prove yourself with something that's probably a little bit easier before taking on the biggest problem. That's something, everybody, problems aren't that unique across the country. The problems are pretty similar, just with a couple different little bits of flavor on them. So, especially this one in particular, we had really a company that was trying to deal with maternal mortality outcomes. And they were looking for some, really big, hard-hitting things that they could do. And, I really cautioned them, because getting into the health system sometimes can be really hard, but getting to midwives, going to other places where they deliver can absolutely help. And sometimes that back door can get you into the health system. So they actually went and presented to a midwifery group in the state. And then we brought them in and talked from that perspective about how maybe we could partner. So it wasn't what they originally thought they were going to do, but it ended up being something that was easier and more manageable. And it built on a relationship that was already existing between the hospital and the midwives that helped them get in the door with their program. Be collaborative as much as you can. Nowadays, everybody's looking for partnerships versus I want to go shopping and just buy tech. They want to have a partnership. How are we going to develop together? How are we going to grow together? This isn't if I can help it, this isn't a one-off. I want to build something with a partner, not just buy a toy. And differentiate yourself as early in the conversation as possible. Please tell me what you can do different than the other 10 vendors that are selling very similar tech. That's key. That's what makes you memorable and what resonates with the organization. There's, again, a lot of the tech is the tech, but sometimes the differentiation is your willingness to partner, your willingness to be innovative together, do pilots, offer a different payment model. Don't come in and tell me in this day and age of tech that we have to have a 5-year contract. No one's doing that with tech. Or I can't lease, I have to buy, or vice versa. Sometimes those things, the ways that you collaborate behind the scenes are the differentiators because the tech isn't really that different. So that's just a few things. I know, like, Igor's counting me down. Those are just a few things to keep in mind and things that I've come across, of late. So just putting them out there as points of consideration. Some perfect is the enemy of good is kind of one of my mantras always. And then the only way to assure that you fail is not to start. So whatever you can do to get a pilot started, get something started with the system, that's the only way you're going to prove it. Either fail fast or win.
Can you tell a quick story about organization or experience where you were partnering with them and boy, they really just nailed it? What did they do really well beyond what you just said?
You know what? They were willing to, number one, not be pushy and not that kind of arrogant you need. I love when, I'm being totally sarcastic, when they tell you that you need them, drives me crazy. But honestly, one of the best, absolutely best partnerships was an organization that it took me like 18 months to get them because the hospital cycle is so slow between budget and then just all the hoops you have to jump through. They stuck with me. We had regular touch points. Not that they could control it, but the sales team stayed the sales team. It didn't change 3 times during the process, which unfortunately of late is tough. Right. And they were willing, flexibility, honestly. They were very flexible. The companies that are more like, Igor knows this is my thing, be a palm tree, don't be an oak. The oak gets tipped over and snapped off, and the palm tree keeps going with the breeze and survives the storm. And they were willing to bend. Every time I came back with, this isn't going to work, we have to do X, they flexed with me. They worked with me. And if something was a really hard no, we talked about it until we figured out a way around it. So it was the willingness to constantly talk versus say, this is how you have to work with us. If you can't do this, then we just, they just throwing up obstacles to try to make it fit their way of working.
Right.
Is one of the things that killed us. They were willing to move to how we work to get the deal across. Even though in the beginning I had some key stakeholders that were absolute no. They were like, no, this other company is one of our preferred partners. I get that a lot. And this is a new company we've never dealt with. I don't know that you know what you're doing, kind of that whole thing. So I think it's a combination of I'm a total bulldog and very persistent if I believe in it, and a company that really is willing to pretty quickly work with me to help keep molding the vision until we got it there. The ones where we've really failed is where I've repeatedly kind of done this, tee them up for the group. I've got 12 key stakeholders from the CMIO down to nurses working at the bedside, and they don't learn from the last time we pulled all these people together. They repeat themselves constantly and overpromise and underdeliver. Right. You said you'd have the answer to these 6 questions the last time we met, and we left this call with the same 6 questions out there. That just frustrates people. And even if the whole package is really good, the work experience is bad enough that they fall off and I'm on to somebody else because I can't keep round peg square hole. Can't keep making it work. It's the flexibility. It's the willingness, even outside of the tech, to promise, deliver what you say you're going to deliver, but also flex with me. I know that you dealt with Jefferson this way, or you dealt with another competitor. I don't need to hear about it. But how can you deal with me? How can you work with my folks so that we can get it across the finish line?
So what advice do you have for the super small startups that we don't have our first client?
It's hard. It's hard because my Gemma hat is like, hey, we can do this, but my working in the system and all of the politics of the system says that, for the brand new little guys, it's really hard. Mm-hmm. It's I have some that I work with, and I tell them up front, I'm really honest, that this isn't going to happen with us right now because the culture where we are, they won't do it. Yeah. But stay connected. because as you grow, and I check in, like we do quarterly check-ins, so I can keep testing the water and seeing where they are. They can check the landscape with me and see where I am with stakeholder engagement, and maybe something's changed.
Yeah.
So sometimes the investment is just time and keeping your finger in and keeping yourself relevant into the conversation. Sometimes it's not moving towards contract, but it's just moving towards a place where I can even get you in the door for a conversation.